Hello viewers, and welcome to another MyRoute-app broadcast. Tonight I'll be speaking with one of the UK experts on road safety. His name is Richard, and I'll introduce you to him in a minute. But my name is Serge, so if you haven't seen me in previous videos, now you know. Most of you might have seen me before. We do this weekly, and this week we talk about road safety and everything that has to do with that subject. So without me spending too much time here on my own, I will jump to the Zoom session that I have with Richard on it already. Good evening, Richard, and thank you for joining tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted. I accidentally pressed your mute button. If you can unmute yourself, then we can hear you. Yeah, there we go. Welcome, Richard. Thanks for joining.
Good evening, Serge. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Well, Richard, I just told the viewers that you're one of the UK experts when it comes to road safety, and you represent the organization that you work with. Can you please introduce yourself? Who are you, and what do you do?
Richard Gladman. I'm the head of driving and riding standards at IAMroadsmart, UK road safety charity. Basically a career police officer with a background in road safety, accident investigation, and then driver training. And now I keep everything right in IAMroadsmart in terms of what we do for our advanced driving and riding tests. Great.
So that's a quick summary, but I'm sure that your daily job consumes a lot of time when it comes to road safety. That's a big subject. What is your day-to-day job? What do you do when you work?
Well, working for IAMroadsmart, I go around and I make sure that we quality assure all of our tests. You know, the DVSA look at our tests to make sure that it's fit for purpose. I go around and make sure that the people conducting it are doing it the way that we expect it to be done. Obviously, my background in the police helps with that. You know, for my sins, one of my responsibilities as a traffic police officer was fatal accidents in the sort of northeast quarter of London, and accidents involving police cars. And of course, when you turn up to an accident, quite often you can say, oh, this one wouldn't have had my name on it because I'd have been doing something different. But occasionally you turn up to one and you think, you know, I might have been doing exactly what this motorcyclist was doing today. And if I'd been in their position, you know, I might have found myself lying on the road. And it just seemed the right thing to do, to get involved, to try and give people the tools to prevent that happening.
So that's what your calling was, really. You actually had a passion for that, improving people's skills to become better and safer riders and drivers based on bad experiences in your previous occupation.
Absolutely. You know, it used to be that the police driving was, you know, the standard that everybody looked up to. Unfortunately, YouTube gives a slightly strange impression of police driving, because nobody ever posts a good example of it on there, do they? So the examples you see tend to be the bad examples. But of course, you know, for every bad example on there, you could point to thousands of good examples of police officers that are doing it right.
Yeah.
And the techniques they use, the system of car control, which we define as IPSC.
IPSC.
Yeah, IPSC. So that's information, gather it, position, put your motorcycle in the right place, speed, get your speed right, gear, get your gear right, and then once you've got all of that sorted out, use the correct degree of acceleration to negotiate a hazard. So it's a nice, systematic, ordered approach to something. You know, if you adopt that, you're giving yourself time to deal with in situations, So by the very nature of giving yourself time to do stuff, you're going to be safer.
That's good news. And you shared a quick YouTube video with me that may be smart to show to our viewers today, so that you get a quick overview of what IPSC stands for. And I think it shows a gentleman on a Triumph. And I'm not sure if you can see it, because if you're not watching the stream, but we can talk about it a little bit after. It's actually a summary of a brief introduction video of the system of car and motorcycle control, the IPSC as you call it, right?
That's right.
And what do you typically do when you share this information with people? What's the start?
This would be their first introduction to the system. When you were taught to drive in the UK, mirror signal manoeuvre was the system you adopted. IPSC is an extension of that. The purpose of the system, it was actually designed to slow police officers down on their way to emergency calls when they went into a hazard. And if you apply the features on the approach to a hazard, it just gives you a nice ordered approach. It also gives you back control of your driving and riding. We're all too guilty these days of it being about the destination and not the journey.
Yep.
Well, if you actually practice advanced driving and riding, you take the journey back. So the journey can actually become part of the experience, not just the getting there.
And does it also mean that adapting IPSC in your daily driving allows you to, as it were, to slow down everything that happens around you, because you're more aware of it, so you can enjoy your ride a lot more?
Yeah, absolutely. IPSC is one of our acronyms we use. The other one that we use to very good effect is OAP.
OAP.
OAP. So observation, anticipation, and planning. And that's actually the first part of IPSC, is that information gathering. So look as far down the road as you can. The trick about advanced driving and riding is not to show how well you handle the machine or the car. It's actually to show how well you read the situation, so that you don't have to show how well you handle the machine or the car, because you've dealt with it by, taking the appropriate caution before you get there.
That's where the planning comes from, right? So
absolutely,
you already foresee in anticipation what this bend is doing, because you read the road better, and you can plan for that, so you don't have to get out of gnarly situations because you exit the right speed in the right way. Absolutely.
To say that you were a fantastic car or motorcycle handler was actually a backhanded compliment at the police driving school, because what we were essentially saying was, why did you get yourself into that situation in the first place when you had ample opportunity not to?
Yeah, and I want to step back a little bit, because I heard you say that IAMroadsmart is a charity. Safety as a whole is of course a really important subject. What's the charity part got to do with road safety?
Well, we're a membership organisation. Part of our charitable objective is to make the roads safer. So we do lobbying of Parliament to try and improve road safety. Mm-hmm. We get involved in road safety initiatives. Some of the stuff we're doing in the UK at the moment with police and crime commissioners.
Yeah.
Ideally, we want to get involved with the most vulnerable groups on the road, to give them the necessary skills to stay safe. It's a sad fact that youngsters who pass their driving or riding tests are more likely to be involved in accidents.
Yeah. And I can imagine, with the roads in the UK being so diverse, from city and metropolitan roads to country roads, with their all their own unique hazards and risks, that the training then needs to be really, really broad as well, especially for young drivers that may have taken a driving class in North London and then going out on a vacation trip and never having seen a hedge and the risks associated with that.
Well, absolutely, Serge. One of the big things is, until recently, until you actually passed your driving test, you weren't allowed on a motorway. But of course, you could pass your driving test at midday, and by 12:05, you could actually be on a motorway that you'd never been on before. Now, obviously, UK government, as a result of people pointing this out, have changed the opinion, and now with an authorised driving instructor, you can go on a motorway.
Yeah.
But of course, if you were to come to somewhere like IAMroadsmart, we would actually take you onto a motorway and improve your skill set, show you how much further down the road you've got to look when you're driving or riding at 70 miles an hour, and give you some simple tips. If there's a car in lane 1 approaching the back of an HGV, if you know that the HGV can only do 56 miles an hour,
and you realise that,
it's absolutely not rocket science to figure out that at some stage the car is going to pull out from behind it. And if you're getting to the stage where they're getting close to the back of the HGV, you need to start dealing with it.
Yep.
They're either going to have to brake or else they are going to pull out in front of you. So just little bits of information like that. Where are you likely to get displacement? Well, of course, it's where traffic's joining. So
that's where people start weaving and cars start changing lanes. That's where your hazards are.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you see the exit marker, then think to yourself, well, if they're going off, somebody's coming on the other side, where do I need to be? Is it going to be busy? Is lane 1 the most appropriate place for me, or would I be better off in lane 2 at the moment so that I can allow traffic to join? And obviously there's no, you must do this because it depends on the circumstances, but always have that flexibility to allow yourself somewhere to go.
So imagine I'm a motorcycle rider in the UK. Do I need to go to a training school, or how does it typically go? I find your website, and then I think to myself, I've got my driver's license, my riding license for 30 years, so I'm probably a quite experienced rider. I'm guessing I might be wrong, right?
You're definitely an experienced rider, and you've definitely got some skills about you because you've been riding for 30 years, and you're fine. But you know what? You never stop learning. I learn every time I go out on a bike. So visit IAMroadsmart.com. Mm-hmm. Have a look at our advanced riding course. Mm-hmm. We've got groups spread all over the UK. So we have local groups. If you decide to join us, then get in touch. We'll put you in touch with your local group, and you go out for sessions with one of our observers.
And what would a session typically look like? Because you call it an observer. Does that mean that I ride and somebody tags along and comments on my riding skills and then gives me feedback? Yeah,
absolutely. They'll follow you. But what we'd also expect them to do at some stage is ride in front and get you to comment on their riding. The big thing that's different about an advanced motorcyclist is positioning. Position away from danger, but position for benefit when you can. Obviously, in a car, you can't move very much within a lane. On a motorcycle, you can make a big difference to how far you can see around a bend.
Yeah, by placing yourself at the offside or on the near side. Of the lane that you're in.
Yeah. But of course, don't fall into the habit of painting by numbers. If you position to the near side for a right-hand bend, that might be fantastic in most circumstances, but it's not fantastic if there's a blind junction coming in from the left, or if there's a pothole, or if there's a mud on the near side of the road. So each and every bend has its own bit of information that allows you to make a decision. Positioning to the offside and the left-hand bend is great, but not with an HGV towards, because you want to be a little bit away from that.
So it's not a strict regime. It's making you aware of your possible dangers and your possible risks, and dealing with them the best way possible.
What we've got a great phrase that we use in relation to it. We're trying to make a thinking rider. Somebody who makes an informed decision on the information that they've got. You could say, the absolute best position is going to be here, but you know what? Is the absolute best position the safest position on this occasion? And you adapt depending on what you've got.
Now, and does that also include, for example, I know that a lot of UK riders go to Europe if they have a chance to go ride the Picos or the Alps or Germany. I can imagine that that change of driving style between the UK and Europe could also be one of the subjects that people may learn in one of your classes, right?
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, the principles will apply wherever you take advanced riding. Obviously, you're on the opposite side of the road, mostly in Europe. But you've just got to apply your positioning and make sure you know the local traffic laws. Certainly some of my favourite rides have been across Europe. I thought the Stelvio Pass was fantastic.
Yep.
It's much more pleasant to ride up it than it is down it, but that's only because I've got dodgy wrists, and at the time I think I was on a Gixxer 1000.
Not the most comfortable bike if you have sore wrists, but
no, and by the time you've sort of made it to the Stelvio Pass, you've obviously been leaning on your wrists for a little while, haven't you?
yeah, that's absolutely true. Let's talk about risks, because here in the Netherlands we keep statistics on motorcycle accidents, and I'm sure the UK does as well. Do you have any idea what the biggest risks are for riders?
Well, it's interesting. Most riders that are involved in serious accidents, it tends to be a single vehicle accident in the UK. So a single vehicle accident on a rural road. So that tends to suggest that we're getting it wrong as motorcyclists. So we need to start taking a little bit more care of ourselves. Back to biking is always a little bit of a concern. I remember going around to my dad's many years ago when I got a new 750 Suzuki motorcycle.
Great.
And my dad decided it was a great idea to stick his leg over it, because obviously he'd ridden big bikes before, and he was quite amazed that his 650 BSA didn't have nearly as much power as my 750 Suzuki did. So going back to motorcycling, if you haven't been riding for a few years, go and get some training. There's no shame in it. It is an absolute best thing you can do. Advanced riding is about safety, but it's also about getting that enjoyment out of your motorcycle. If you're comfortable and confident on the bike, then the smile on your face comes back. And as we all know, a motorcycle should only be ridden really with a smile on your face.
Yep.
If you're not riding it with a smile on your face, you're doing it wrong.
If you not have any flies in your teeth when you come home, you haven't smiled enough.
Absolutely.
Or the weather was poor and you had your visor down, but that's
Yeah. Although I'm getting to the age now, Serge, where if the weather's poor, I'll look outside.
Well, but we find ourselves in situations, especially when you're traveling, that you have to deal with foul weather as well. I've ridden in Scotland and the UK, and I've had beautiful, beautiful days. But we also had, from a beautiful day, in 5 minutes, it was the worst downpour ever recorded in human history almost, and you have to deal with it. You're on a packed bike, you got your gear on, you got your luggage, maybe you got a pillion. Is there anything particularly in your courses that deals with that as well, traveling and loading your bike?
There is. Our observers will speak to you about loading your bike. Everybody thinks you can just bung a load of luggage on the back of your bike, but going back to my previous existence, a motorcycle accident I dealt with was actually a high-powered Kawasaki sports bike, where the chap on the back in a top box had a full set of mechanics tools. So you can imagine the weight that was in the top box, and it actually, at some stage, a quick pull away threw him off the back of the bike, which in East London isn't a great idea.
No, and that's one of the risks that you also have. You don't even have to pull your bike on the back, but your cornering will be so much different if you have your bike loaded. I
mean, you think about it, that sort of weight on the back, you're lightening the front end. Even if you don't wheelie, you're reducing your steering, you're reducing your steering grip. But the best bit of advice I was ever given, and I'm going to name check an ex-colleague here, a chap called Mark Winter, who was a motorcycle instructor extraordinaire at the police driving school, and we were talking about wet weather riding, and I said, oh yes, I always ride smoothly in the wet, because it makes you safer. And Mark actually said something to me that stuck with me from that day. He said, what, you only ride smoothly in the wet? He said, I try to ride smoothly all the time. He said, and then by riding smoothly all the time, I don't have to change when it's wet.
It's a habit.
Yeah, and what a fantastic bit of advice that was. You know, if you ride every day smoothly, then your wet weather riding's already covered, isn't it?
Yeah, it becomes a habit, and it's muscle memory almost. And you only have to change maybe your speed a little bit. One of the things that must come up in your trainings is braking and braking distances. People sometimes seem to, when I ride, I often see people overshoot corners or overshoot an intersection that they may have not anticipated as well as they could have. Braking distance and braking in general, how do you, what can you tell about that?
Well, what I can tell you first and foremost is most people don't know how to brake on a motorcycle. They're worried about locking the wheel up. So part of our course would be actually getting you to use your brake, making sure that you know when to use a lot of front brake, when you need to use a little bit more back brake, and having the confidence to brake firmly, instead of if I was to count going 1, 2, 3, don't pull it anymore. Actually, in dry conditions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can actually really get that brake on. Obviously, you've got to think about how your braking distance increases with regards to speed. Mm-hmm. People will think, oh well, I've doubled my speed, I've doubled my braking distance, but as we know, sirs, that's not true, is it?
No, it's not. But there's a quick calculation you can do. Doubling your speed, actually,
it quadruples your braking distance.
So it becomes 4 times as long as it was before. So yeah. But that also applies then the other way around. If I'm going 50 towards an intersection and throttling down to 40.
Yeah, every little bit of speed you take off means that your thinking distance will reduce considerably, because obviously your thinking distance is all done at the maximum speed. So, if in doubt, slow down.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, a modern motorcycle, how long does it actually take to re-achieve the speed? So if you have any doubts at all, take the speed off, deal with the situation, and then put the speed back on.
That's good advice. And keeping in mind that when your speed has doubled to what you did before, 30 to 60, now your braking distance is 4 times as long. And that can make the difference between hitting that car or that elephant that crosses the road and not hitting it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we're driving or riding around in a 30 mile an hour speed limit, there's an interesting little bit of advice here. If you're doing 30 and you slam the brakes on and just miss the pedestrian who stepped out, mm-hmm. If you were doing 35, what speed do we think you would hit the pedestrian at? Because you would hit them, obviously, because you were going too quickly. And people go, oh, well, it's only 5 miles an hour. Well, the speed of impact would be approximately 18 miles an hour.
That would definitely injure, maybe even worse. Hitting
somebody with a car at 18 miles an hour is going to smart. Hitting somebody with a motorcycle at 18 miles an hour, because of the protrusions and the shape of the motorcycle, is likely to do serious injury. So that it's only 5 miles an hour makes a massive difference at the other end.
I'm getting from you that knowledge is actually making you a better rider already. Knowing the difference in braking distance, knowing what kind of impact the little bit of speed difference has, 30 or 35 in a 30 zone, and the consequences that it has, make people more aware of the significance of making that change for themselves and for the people around them, but firstly for themselves. So that must be a big part of the training that you guys do.
It is a big part of it. And, I mean, we identify with speed limits, don't we? So a really, really good thing to remember is they are a limit. So that's the maximum you're allowed to do. If you feel you need to go slower than that, another thing from one of my instructors at Hendon, when I did my own instructor's course, have the confidence to drive or ride slowly. make the right decisions. So have the confidence to slow down and deal with something. But also have the confidence when it's absolutely safe to ride at the speed limit. Think about it, be that thinking driver or that thinking rider, and put it into practice.
Knowledge is again power, especially when it comes to riding. That's for damn sure, if I understand you right. And so now with the winter, people may park their bikes, especially when snow and ice come on. There's a handful of diehards that may still ride or may have to ride, but the sunny weather riders may have already put the bike in the shed for the coming months. So would it be generally good advice to invite those people to at least consider taking a back to the bike course when they come out of winter season?
Yeah. I mean, come and engage with us anyway. If you want to get more out of your bike and enjoy it, then whenever you're going to ride it, come and get involved with one of our groups. You'll be surrounded by like-minded individuals who love motorcycling. If you drive a car, come and get involved with a group of petrol heads who want to make you as safe as possible in your car, but want you to get back to enjoying it.
So it's a group experience too. It's a fun day out. Can I call it that?
If you like riding and driving, it's a fun day out to share that day with somebody who's as interested as you are. And my bike's in the garage at the moment. It may well come out over the winter. I may well be doing some assessments. But when I get back onto it properly, I'll go out with one of the other full-time staff or one of the observers from the IAM, and they'll put me through my paces. Because as I said earlier on, you'll never ever stop learning on a motorcycle. And if ever you think you have learned everything, then please give the keys to somebody else and don't get on it.
That's actually good advice. So people should be conscious of their own limitations. Anyway, even if you think that you are an accomplished rider, that must be a signal. Hey, so I'm thinking this. Maybe I should get in touch with you in the IAM to have somebody have an opinion on that, because it's just an opinion, right? It's feedback, it's coaching. You cannot fail the course, I understand, or can you?
No, you can fail it.
Oh, you can fail.
What you can't do is not learn, because if you start the course and go to the test and fail the test, you've still got some of the knowledge. But you can fail the test, and we do get people fail the test. I like to think that those that fail it know why they failed, because they get a thorough debrief and they come back and have another go.
And then they surely pass because they know where they failed before.
Yeah. And any of us could fail a test for something that on the day just went horribly wrong. And, you can't legislate for a one-off incident where you just got it hopelessly wrong.
No.
But what you can do is train and train and train, so that if a situation happens, you actually revert to your training. And it's your training that will get you out of trouble.
Good. That's really sound advice, Richard. And thank you very much for being on tonight. We're running out of the 30 minutes that we had. So I for sure learned a lot, and I hope the viewers did as well. I thank you for being on tonight. And as I close off, I will ask the viewers to take a look at this great calendar. It's the MyRoute-app calendar. I showed it before. And we are giving away 3, maybe 4, to any of you that can put in the comments. And that's not just today when it's live. We'll leave the comments open till, I'm guessing, the weekend or something. That can tell us how much your braking distance increases if your speed doubles. We talked about it in this MyRoute-app broadcast, so you could find the answer if you replay, if you haven't picked up on it earlier. I thank you all for watching. Richard, thanks again for being here tonight.
Thanks for
having me. Great meeting you.
Thank
you. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. And for everybody at home, thank you, and have a great holiday and a great new year already. And I hope to see you next year when we broadcast a new live version. In the meantime, keep following us on Facebook, because we might pop up on your timeline with a recorded video. Who knows? Until then, stay safe. Have a great evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.